you got to focus on the things that you can control, and you can't control the outcome. At the end of the day, all you can do is do your part, and hopefully things fall in place.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt Mosveen and you're on air with Radio Chatter. Joining us on the flight deck today, we've got the wonderful Phylicia George.
Yeah.
Phylicia, have you ever been in a small airplane before?
Never. This is my first time.
Well, we're at 3,000 feet over beautiful Petticoat Conservation Area in Toronto. And we can't wait to learn some amazing things about you. So thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Phylicia George is a Canadian Olympic athlete. She's a rare breed of elite athletes who has competed in both Summer and Winter Olympic Games. During the summer, she represents Canada for track and field, and in 2018, Phylicia took home a bronze medal in women's bobsled during the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games.
Let's talk a bit about food. And so whether it's brisket in Austin, Texas, or mango tangerine smoothies in your kitchen, you've got practical and scientifically researched meal tips that a lot of people are probably wondering about. And so if you had to start a cooking show for athletes, what sorts of foods or ingredients do you think we might see popping up in a lot of your recipes?
I just like to have a lot of variety with my food. One of my biggest things, so I like to have color, like a variety of colors. So anytime I'm talking about eating nutritious food. And another thing is eating food that like comes from the earth. I think a lot of the times we get really caught up in eating processed foods or eating food that, isn't really real. So when I'm like basically getting my nutrition together, it's always like, is this like actual food? Would my grandmother know what this is?
Right.
And I like to add in lots of variety colors, so I know I'm getting a variety of nutrients, all those different types of things.
That's really cool.
And I'm willing to try new stuff. I love like cooking with fresh herbs. I really want to start my own garden, but I travel way too much to do that. But it's actually been nice. My dad has a really good garden, so I've been eating like kale, tomatoes, fresh herbs. So it's been really dope.
Was there ever a food that a lot of other athletes around you might have been like raving about, or nutritionists told you that you should try, but you just couldn't get behind it because of the taste or the texture?
You know what? And it's funny. Initially, cottage cheese was something that I could not get on.
Really?
And it's like such a good nutritious food.
Neither can I. I hate it.
It's the way it looks, right?
Yeah.
But I've actually been able, if I put lots of honey, which I'm probably like, defeating the purpose now because you're putting a bunch of sugar on it.
I mean, it's natural sugar though, right?
Right. It's the good stuff. But cottage cheese is actually such a nutritious meal for you. So maybe I might have to hop on that someday. But yeah, definitely. I know a lot of people who eat cottage cheese and say it's so good for you. So
let's pretend that there was a world where there are no physical consequences for an entire day, and none of your coaches would find out about it either.
Oh.
What meals or like guilty pleasures do you think you're going to be hurtling towards?
I have the biggest sweet tooth. I actually love candy so much, and all of my friends know that I actually love eating like Skittles and all that stuff. So I definitely would binge out on as much sweets and desserts as I could. Apple pie, cheesecake. Cheesecake is one of my favorites.
No kidding.
And candy, sours. I remember when I was small, I used to like to go to Bulk Barn and just like fill my bags. And yeah, so I would.
Classic.
It would definitely be a candy day for me.
While food obviously might be important to your routine, let's switch gears here and talk about meditation a little bit. So could you walk us through, in as much detail as you would like, what does your meditation practice look like?
Yeah. Right now I meditate mornings and evenings, and you know what, I started meditating in 2016, and I started with I'm trying to remember the name of the app, Headspace. Headspace was the app that I first started using, and it was like 10 minutes a day, and that was like a super long like time for me at that point. And the focus at that point was just focusing on your breath. But I've like really dived into it. So now really for me, My meditation is more so just about like listening to the sounds around me, trying to be really present. And I can meditate almost for an hour sometimes in the morning, but first thing in the morning, like I don't get out of bed. Like that first hour is for me to like really set my frequency, set my like intentions for the day. And then before bed, it's kind of like the wind down. Like sometimes I might even fall asleep while I'm meditating, right? But one thing that I remember listening to someone talk, and she was like, I know everybody has this thought about meditation being not thinking. But
like void of thought.
Exactly. Like basically, yeah, just sit there and have no thoughts. And it's like, that's impossible to do. But a teacher basically spoke about how meditation isn't necessarily about not thinking. It's about coming back to the present moment, even when so creating an awareness around your thoughts. So let's say you're meditating for 10 minutes and for 9 minutes, you just have crazy thoughts. But in that last minute, you come back to the present moment. That's a successful meditation. And so you really have to reframe the way that you're thinking about it. And I've seen such huge improvements in like my ability to deal with things, or like, let's say any stresses that happen while I'm on the track or anything like that. Like my ability to like kind of come back to home base is like way better since I've been meditating.
On the topic, I guess, of mindfulness, I mean, mindfulness, of course, revolves around the concept of presence. And so you're somebody who's like a firm believer in the power of presence. You said in your TED Talk, there's something superhuman about bringing all of our energy to a moment. And I really liked that you used the example of standing on top of the track in Pyeongchang. What did that moment feel like for you? Before
we started?
Yeah, before. Like seconds before you're waiting for that light to go off.
Yeah, to go off. Honestly, like the thing that I love about sport the most, especially when I'm competing and I love to compete, is it makes time slow down. It makes the whole world kind of disappear. And so I'm standing there, you know, and obviously I have my partner with me. And there's people, but it's like you can't even hear all of that stuff. It's like there's this haze and you're just so within yourself, so within what you want to do. And I love that it takes away all the other stuff of life. It just kind of like slips away, you know?
Right.
So definitely in that moment, it was literally like, I can just feel the ice beneath me. I can feel like the sweat in my hands. Like I'm so present with everything that is here, but at the same time, like zoned out from all the like extra stuff. So it's a transcendent experience sometimes.
Now, Canada is world-class rock star tier when it comes to Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
And then during the Summer Olympics, Canada isn't generally seen the same way internationally. And so did it feel like there was an added layer of stress or expectation in competing for Canada during Pyeongchang, which is the Winter Olympics, compared to Rio or London?
I wouldn't say there was an added layer of stress. I actually felt like it was almost like a boost. Like you kind of went in like, yo, we're Canada. And you know what I mean? Like we're dope. We know we're good in the Winter Olympics.
Not our first rodeo.
Yeah, exactly. And I just remember like, so when you stay in the village, like each country kind of has their own like house type of thing, or like or apartment building, basically, right?
Yeah.
And I remember coming into like the Canada House, and it's like they would put like pictures of people who had won medals that day.
Wow.
And then every time you walk in, it's like this, it's like stacking up. It's getting more and more and more. So like, I felt like I was getting motivated by seeing that. You know, I'm coming in and I'm seeing all of my, you know, fellow teammates just killing it. And so I feel motivated, and I was kind of like, well, I'm so excited to go out there and do my thing so I can get my picture on this wall too. You know what I mean? And so it just, to me, I felt like I was more so feeding off of that energy and that confidence that, you know, Canadians bring. But the beautiful thing is, though, I feel like Canada's making a name for themselves in the Summer Olympics as well, especially in track and field. So like we have like some rock stars on the track and definitely upping the amount of medals that we're winning. So I'm excited to bring that energy to the Summer Olympics and obviously win a summer medal.
Was there a sense of relief then when winning the bronze medal that you had kind of in a sense fulfilled your duty to Canada as a Winter Olympian, or was that reputation really just not a factor at all?
I mean, a little bit. There was the expectation for us to win a medal, so there's a little bit you're kind of like, okay, like we did it, type of thing. But even more so than that, honestly, I remember coming out of the sled that like when we realized we won the bronze, and I was crying, like just like really raw emotion. And I think the thing that made me the most emotional was thinking about like where I was when I started and like and then like, oh man, like I actually did it. Because when I first went out there, I wasn't competing because I wasn't good enough, but you know what I mean? And so to me, it was more that emotional moment of like seeing what I did and where I came from.
So you have talked about your approach. Obviously, you mentioned earlier like the one or two words, like that single in those high stress moments where in order to focus on the most important things, you'll just repeat one or two words in your head. So this kind of highlights this yin and yang relationship between actions-based approaches versus outcome-based approaches. So is either of them better than one or another, or can you unpack sort of how you pick which strategy to deploy in different scenarios?
I feel like in general, I try to think outcome-based is more so like when I'm trying to plan a bigger, like, what's the goal here? Where do I want to do? But when I'm actually in a competition, it's always process-based. It's always like, I'm not even thinking about like, I'm trying to win this race. I'm just trying to think about like, what do I need to do in this moment to be where I want to be, type of thing. But
right.
And I just really feel like a big thing for me is I really believe in preparation is confidence. And so thinking about preparing to the best of my ability, and on competition days, as much as possible, I want to be thinking as little as possible. And like I said before, I really believe in like and trust in my body and its ability to do what it knows how to do. So I mean, competition days, it's like literally just like, I'm just going to go out there and do it. And whatever happens, happens. Like, that's the kind of the way I take it. And it's kind of like, if I prepared well enough, I know I'm going to get the results that I want. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like allow yourself the space to forget by preparing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Do you think everybody should be actions focused and the outcomes will sort of fall into place after that?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think when you're focusing on, because the thing is, you got to focus on the things that you can control, and you can't control the outcome. At the end of the day, all you can do is do your part, and hopefully things fall in place. But I'd say 9 times out of 10, when all you're doing is focusing on the actions, you are going to get the outcome you want. And when you're focusing on the outcome, like, you can get that anxiety, the fear, the worry. Exactly. And those things are going to take away from your performances. And so, and again, just when you are focusing on the action and what you need to do, you can be more present. And you can bring more like a cool, calm quality to what you're doing.
So I've never once heard you compare yourself to another. And it's kind of mind-blowing to me, actually, because for something like track and field, you're literally racing against people in real time who are right beside you. And yet the language that you use is always about competing with yourself. And so have you always been good at avoiding comparison towards other people, or was that a skill that you really honed when you were training for bobsled, let's say?
Yeah, most definitely. It's something that I developed over time. And I think just throughout my years of training, I've noticed that, the times when I'm really comparing myself to other people, I'm like trash. Like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing because my focus is in the wrong place. And so I literally made the decision at one point where I was like, I'm not going to look at any times anymore. Like, I'm not going to look at my times. I'm not going to look at their times. I literally will not have a reference point to be able to compare myself. And then just focus on like, okay, what technical thing do I want to work on today? What technical thing do I need to do? And I'm not even lying to you. Like, it was night and day the way that I was able to progress, because I wasn't focused on all those other like things, and I wasn't taking my energy into places that it didn't need to be. So, yeah.
And it was like you realized the results pretty instantly when you made that decision. Yeah. It sounds like.
Yeah, 100%. I would say like within a month, I skyrocketed to the top. So, yeah.
Let's shift gears here and play a little game called Did You Dabble With It? I've got some subjects, topics, and pastimes. Some of them have some truth to them, and some of them are a complete shot in the dark.
Okay.
And so basically, I'll say the subject, and then you tell us if you did indeed dabble with it. Let's get started.
Okay.
Rhubarb.
No.
Jazz piano.
No.
Writing poetry.
Yeah, I write a lot of poetry. I love writing poetry and reading.
South American wildlife photography.
South American?
Yeah, not just any there has to be South American wildlife.
No.
Astrophysics.
No.
Volleyball.
Yes. I played in high school.
Prank phone calls.
No, I was a pretty good kid,
Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I lived there for a year or 2 years.
Rec center paper mache classes.
No.
Muhammad Ali quotes.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is a Muhammad Ali quote.
Girl guides.
Yes! That was one of my first camping experiences, too.
Starbucks via Ready Brew instant coffee.
Yeah, I probably have at some point.
Paper routes.
Yeah, I had a paper route when I was a kid.
Rear wheel drive automobiles.
No. I'm gonna say no.
Scandinavian minimalist lifestyle products.
100%, yes. I was living in Finland.
Having clips of your interviews sampled in hip hop beats.
Maybe.
There's one guy that told me he did, but
yes, he did. Yes.
Yeah, shouts out. Well, thanks so much for playing. Did you dabble with it?
Yeah, that was fun. That was cool.
Okay, so it's time for the moment that you have all been waiting for, the Instagram fan questions.
Oh.
And so first up in rapid fire sequence, which is quick answers,
Okay.
Donniamo, at Donniamo, is wondering, how do you push yourself to train when you really, really don't want to?
I'd say my biggest thing is just keeping my goal in mind. Sometimes I'll have a time that I want to run for the year and I'll put it up somewhere. But yeah, I would just say keeping that big goal in mind and keeping me motivated towards that.
At Adam or Carter wants to know, what was the hardest part about transitioning from being at such a high level in your sport to then starting fresh in a new sport with bobsleigh?
Humbling my ego, I would say 100%. It was really hard. I think I had to change a lot of the way that I did things in terms of my technique. But I would say mentally that was the hardest part. Kind of humbling myself, and again, like I said, wanting to be a beginner and learn new things.
At Kim Hyacinth asks what she prefers to look at between trees and clouds.
It's hilarious because Kim's my good friend, and I can't choose. I love them both so much. I'm gonna say clouds.
I mean, you can see both of them right in front of you here.
Yeah.
At NC704 is wondering, how many meals does she eat a day?
Typically, if I'm training, oh man, it's so much food. 3 big meals, but I have so many snacks in between. A lot of it's going to be based on where my training is, but I would say 3 big meals and 3 snacks throughout the day, so almost 6. Yeah.
Also wants to know, does she count calories?
I do not count calories. I'd more so just based on whatever my training session looks like. I'm gonna make decisions on do I need carbs? Do I need protein? Basically, how do I need to fuel myself? But I don't count calories. I actually work out so much that it's hard to get as much food that I needed sometimes.
At Rashu Clark wants to know, do you have any role models, athletes or non-athletes? If so, what inspires you about these people, and have you met any of them before?
Oh, wow. I honestly am just inspired by anybody who does the things that they're really passionate about. Maya Angelou is someone I think she's really passionate about what she did, and she was a really great writer, and obviously I love writing as well. Muhammad Ali, obviously I love his quotes. I just loved his bravado, but also the fact that he spoke towards things within the community as well. And so yeah, and actually Perdita Felicien was one of the first great Canadian 100-meter hurdlers, and so coming up, she was definitely someone that I looked up to, and she's someone that I actually got to meet later on in life, and we got to compete against each other. So yeah,
and you actually beat her. She knocked down a hurdle, didn't you? Yeah,
I did. So that was a big deal for me.
And last up, Ben Storty is wondering, do you think you could deadlift this plane? It weighs. Do you want to know? Well, let's see what you say first. I'll tell you how much it weighs.
I don't think so, actually. And especially not in track shape. When I was doing bobsleigh, we might have had I might have been able to say, but I haven't been lifting like that for track.
When it's empty, it weighs around 1,700-ish pounds.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And when it's full, we're in it. It weighs closer to 2,550 pounds.
Yeah.
You've asked a lot of people in the past, when was the last time you did something for the first time? And so now it's time for me to ask you, would you like to fly a plane for the first time?
Oh my God, yes.
Just a
I'm
little
scared.
bit over your city. So
Okay.
you can put your hands on the controls. I'll give you a
Wait,
really
can I come
brief
closer?
sort of tutorial. Yeah, I want to
Okay.
pull yourself up.
OMG, this is dope.
All right, so straight and level. Look out into the horizon, and you'll see like the flat part of
Okay.
the instrument panel, and then the horizon's flat, and there's a bit of distance in between it, right?
Okay.
So you want to keep that distance pretty similar, okay? So you have control. Pull up a little bit, and we're going to go to 2,000 feet. And you can push forward just a little bit now. And let's look to the left for traffic. So just look over there. Do you see any other airplanes?
No.
Okay, so we can start a turn to the left.
Am I turning?
Yeah, just a little bit more. You can go a little more aggressively and actually pull just a tiny bit back on the control column. Exactly. Not too far, though, so you can
Okay.
relax some of that back pressure.
Oh,
Perfect. Nicely done. That's great.
thank you.
Well, really appreciate you coming on the show, Phylicia, today. Thank you so much for coming on Radio Chat. It's time to go back in for a landing, so you can say goodbye to the viewers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for coming with us on Radio Chatter.
Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. You know exactly what to do. Fasten your seatbelts and subscribe for more.